Creating a god might be easier than you think. For thousands of years, people have been creating all kinds of gods. They created gods in their own likeness. They created the sun gods, moon gods, fire gods, water gods, earth gods, thunder gods, afterlife gods, love gods, harvest gods, alligator gods, elephant gods, fish gods, alien gods, cat gods, you name it. Every cool and awesome thing, every event or natural phenomena or disaster can be attributed to a specific god you create. The earliest gods created possibly could not even be expressed in words. The later versions of gods were the Sumerian, Egyptian, and Indian gods. These gods were pretty kick-ass. They didn't talk to regular people or gave them commandments, but they did rule over the pharaohs and told the pharaohs to build giant pyramids if they were to live forever in the underworld. These pyramids took lots of years and resources to be built, and that drained the Egyptian empire. But as long as a few men got to be rich in the afterlife in the process, then it was all worth it. The later Greek version of gods were simply amazing. They were like superheroes from the comics, only with a lot more charisma, ego, and powers. Had any of them existed today, they would probably get their own TV shows, be chased by the paparazzis, and go to rehab clinics and whatnot. Later on, or at about the same time, some people realized that creating too many gods was not a good idea, because they constantly had to keep track of one or another god, and perhaps that was a little too much to handle, so they decided to go with just one god. Lately, in the view of more or less rising secularism, the ordinary folk in the mostly Western countries have been creating new gods. Since we understand how reality and nature works and operates, there's little to no excuse for creating gods with specific attributes in respect to the natural occurrences. Ergo, these new gods are not necessarily being created in the ordinary folks' own image and liking, but these gods do possess similar characteristics that reminisce the gods of the ancient people. These characteristics are mostly of a broad and ambiguous nature, but that turns out to be the best and most efficient way for your created god to persist, hide away from the evil secularism, and to live for as long as you require. The more ambiguous your god is, the more chances he or she has of surviving the test of modernity and evil secularism. For instance, it is always popular to associate your god with some pretty word that everyone knows but defines differently. The word energy would be a great start. Your god can easily be created with such a tainted word because few people would agree on how to define the word energy. Some people would say that energy is everywhere and therefore their god is everywhere. People might also say that energy is in every living being, and that is how we stay connected with other living beings. They might also say that energy is the opposite of the material world, and that when they die, the energy within them will somehow allow them to live forever somewhere. They might also argue that love is a form of energy, and since love radiates all over the planet, then there must be that planetary love energy uniting mankind, and that all of that is governed by a god. They might also say that God is simply love. And since love exists, then God must exist. They like saying that the energy cannot be created or destroyed, thus they think that they cannot be destroyed and that death is no impediment for consciousness to exist forever somewhere. Consciousness is also a good word to use. You can speculate on how people are special and distinct from animals in regards to being conscious, and how that might mean that humans' mind goes somewhere else other than total oblivion after death. So your god can represent that. Your god can represent the complete and utter awesomeness and superiority of humans as opposed to animals, and thus you can create all sorts of excuses for your behavior and for your effect on the world. Your god can become the epitome of your pondering of consciousness and of the cosmos embodying itself in your individual body. Your god can represent your supreme ability to be a self-reflecting being that is aware of its own grandeur and infallibility. You might also want to believe that the cosmos always wanted to express itself through conscious beings, ergo humans. So this grand wanting is probably the everlasting longing of the creator god to experience life and sex, McDonald's hamburger, AIDS, cancer, hungriness, horniness, the Holocaust, and a million other goodies that make life great and worth living. The word balance is also very convenient. Everyone understands the definition of the word balance. One of the simplest ways to think about the concept of balance is to imagine an equally balanced set of scales. But if you only apply the word balance to a more complex equation and go with it, you might discover that it's easy to apply the word balance even there. So why don't you put the word balance to good use and apply it to nature? Why don't you apply that word to the state of being of the animal kingdom, for instance? The lion catches a zebra and then tears it apart and then eats it, while the zebra just moments ago was peacefully eating grass. Eventually, the lion will grow old and die, and its body will decompose and mix with the soil, out of which new grass will grow, and then another zebra will once eat it, just before being eaten alive by another lion. So you can easily deduct equilibrium in such a perfect system and just go with it. No harm done, no hurt feelings involved, no sentience harmed, and the world did not end. The lion needs to eat, the zebra needs to suffer immense pain to feed the lion. So what's the issue? This balance has been in place for billions of years, so who are we to judge it? You can easily input a god as the initiator of this great never-ending circle of life, and you can feel good about yourself because God has put you on top of the food chain, which is why you get to enjoy your burger every day. God has willingly decided that creating you was the best and most optimal way of experiencing existence in its purest and the most perfect form. Because for you, it seems like it all works out, everything is balanced. The word spirituality probably happens to be in the top few words that you can easily associate with your newly manufactured God. If someone asks or implies if you are religious, you can say, "No, I'm not religious, but I am spiritual." Statistics have shown that in 99% of cases, you will not be subsequently asked to define spirituality or what you mean when you say you are spiritual. So that part of the conversation can be left at that. But if some rude atheist does dare you to define what you mean, then you can answer that you believe in the greater unity of the human beings and that you believe in the living happily and spreading happiness, self-love and self-aggrandizing, and that all of that will fix the world's problems and bring everyone closer together. You can also throw in some yoga and Buddhism in the mix. The greatest thing about being spiritual is that you don't have to subscribe to a religious dogma and account for all of its inconsistencies, but you can still filter out all of the pleasant and glorious notions about human beings and follow that. So by appearing spiritual, you may think that you are smarter than the religious zealots, but at the same time you want to create a better coping mechanism that will allow you to view life from a brighter and therefore healthier perspective. So yes, in that case your God is pretty much immune from any criticism because you will be able to hide him and slither him in between any secular arguments thrown at you. Our personal favorite quote is to use one simple little notion that we can't know everything. Statistics have shown that subscription to such a notion is prevalent in over 95% of people that create their own gods. For if you wish to think that we can't know everything, then the supposed unknowable gives plenty of room for your God to occupy. You may believe in evolution but you may not want to believe in the origins of evolution or the implications of the crude origin of evolution or what it entails. You may believe that evolution was started by a supernatural event or that it had some underlying purpose. You may believe in the Big Bang and the eventual energy rundown in the universe, but you may also want to believe that somehow the mysteries of the cosmos still hold some great answers that will be beneficial for your perpetual survival and well-being. You may not be able to escape the dogmatic scientific truth about physics and chemistry and astronomy, math, biology and science in general, but you can still seek out the whatever percentage of the unknowable and put your God there. You can still slam the invisible stamp that says approved and made by God and leave it there. No notary republic required. You can be completely fascinated by the awesome miracle of life and how rare and precious it is, so just put a God there to complete the picture. There are many ways of creating your God as well as your justification for one. You could try creating one right now. Let's start with a reason for why you should do so. Well, let's say you are seeking the meaning of life, as we all do. But it seems like everyone has their own version of the meaning of life, and some of them seem either too stupid, too drastic, or too depressing. And let's say that the first thing that you're primarily concerned about is your ultimate end, your death, because that is one of the first things, or one of the major things, that the conscious thinking organism ponders about. Now, you realize in the back of your head that death is the end, but you try to suppress that piece of rational thinking by inventing some of the opposite prospects. You may not realize it, but you have been subconsciously suppressing that innate knowledge for most of your life by keeping yourself busy, by occupying your mind with abstract thinking, by craving for existence and creating layers of motives to keep you going, keep you eating, reproducing, making plans for the future, etc. Most of the time, society will do all of that for you. Society will keep you preoccupied. Society will give you things to do, but it won't always give you spiritual guidance. If the hardcore religion doesn't do it for you, or if you want a more benign or personal God, then by all means you can forge one. You can minimize, ridicule, or trivialize the impediments that stand in your way and climb over them. You can knock down any opposition to your peaceful creation of a God easily. Not to be repetitive, but the bottom line is that we strongly urge you to create at least one God in your lifetime. And no matter how many gods you create, even if it's only one, your chances of living a happy life free from being concerned about the world around you will increase exponentially. You might even want to go as far as to believe that your God will fix everything and make it all worthwhile, and when the curtains fall, he will come out with some incredible surprise that will justify all life. You won't have to concern yourself as much about the exploitation and unfairness and hard labor and the suffering of people and the animals in the slaughterhouses. You won't have to occupy your mind with detrimental thoughts. You can just live and be happy. You can manufacture a God that will just do it for you. So creating a God, creating your own God, is the biggest epitome of reality denial. That fear of oblivion, the uncomfortable facts, the concern for your well-being, and that tingling in your balls can easily manifest in your creating a God to fix all of your problems. Not to be redundant, but we recommend creating one God that will fit your personality and worldview as a means of self-therapy, because the world is just too disgusting to look at. There really is no obligation to stay true to the facts. No one is forcing you to do that. You can simply twist the facts and speculate on some of the properties of the universe that you want to find ambiguous and mysterious. Use your wishful thinking to the fullest. Thank you for reading our manual on how to create your own God.